Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, and this is Ben and Barry on football. I forgot. I also do the Bias Plus report, right, Mr. Dickerson?
That is correct. I'm your co-host, Ben Dickerson. NBA's back. Let's go Sixers. And let's get into some NFL football. Great week of football again. I took a beating on my win-loss percentage, but that's okay because I was very, very entertained. Very entertained.
It was a fun week of football. The Bias Plus report was 62.5% on the money. Had a few upsets, and we will definitely get into that. So stick with us. Ben and Barry on football coming right up. All right, we're going to look at the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings as we track those statistics that we feel are most vital to understand. We're going to start here with points for the scoring. This is your leaders in terms of scoring, and as you can see, your top 10 there, Green Bay Packers and Chiefs, 1 and 2 in terms of putting up points. As you can see now, Ben, we have letters beside team names.
Yeah, some clinching going on.
Some clinching is happening. We got two clinchers. And you know, it's funny, you look down at 12th at the Steelers, they've locked in a playoff spot, but they didn't clinch nothing. And they've fallen. They were up in those top three through most of the season. They're all the way down to 12 now.
It's going to be a while before we see another team go undefeated. All those old guys that are still around from the Miami Dolphins undefeated season are still having their little party and cracking their champagne every time an undefeated team loses, because they remain the only true, fully undefeated team in the Super Bowl era.
Absolutely, you know, and they've got the Cleveland Browns right on their heels at 13 in terms of scoring. They're 1 point differential with the Steelers. I think that's interesting. The Vikings and the Dolphins and the Falcons all in that neighborhood of scoring. And look at this. The Raiders, the Cardinals, and the Bills all scoring more than the Steelers. So, you know, you can see who's putting up the points, but number 1, 2, and 3, those are your heavyweights right there. The Packers, the Chiefs, and the Seahawks. You know, the Titans, you know, I know they put up some points, but I didn't look at them as a high scoring squad yet. What do you think?
The Titans?
Yeah.
Well, usually I don't want to say a ground-based team, but a team that has a heavy rushing attack may not be a real high-scoring team. The Titans, however, are as high as they are, I believe, because they're one of the more balanced offenses as far as running pass is concerned. And Tannehill, again, seems to be having a real good second half of the season. He's only throwing the ball as much as he needs to, because obviously Derrick Henry is the bell cow and he's the main producer of that offense. But anytime he is slowed down even a little bit, or anytime that they may fall behind, the Tannehill's able to bring them back with the passing attack. So they're pretty versatile on offense. I like the way Tennessee's playing right now.
You know, on the Madden front, I actually have been playing, and I don't normally play with other teams. I normally play with the Niners, but I decided to do that because we have some exciting quarterbacks, in this league, and I was like, I just want to see what it's like to play with some of these. And I just finished playing with the Titans, and I play against the Niners, so I have a constant in my evaluation. So every team goes against the Niners. And let me just mention off to the side, Madden has Nick Mullins rated way too high. Nick Mullins is doing some damage in the game.
Mullins.
Like, nah, I called him Nick the Quick early on, but right now, like we both said, he's my Colt McCoy, and he's your Nick Mullins.
You know what that made me think? Let me just say this really fast. There's a lot of times when you have a season where you have a lot of injuries at particular positions. And when it happens at the quarterback position, teams find out that they need to reevaluate their backup quarterback situation. We had the discussion about emergency quarterbacks and all that before, right? But with COVID on top of injuries, there's going to be a whole bunch of backup quarterback turnover next year. Trust me. Cats are finding out, we thought this guy was going to be all right as our backup, but we got to do better.
Great point that you're bringing up about what will probably happen next year. Last week, we talked about the article that's on our Facebook page where they list all of the emergency quarterbacks for the NFL, because again, between COVID, soft tissue injuries, which again, early in the season, we said injuries are going to be the key thing that's going to determine a lot of what goes on. I think it had a lot to do with that Eagles game we'll talk about. But long story short, but you took it to next season, and that's an interesting point. My point early on was when you're looking at these college coaches that we're calling geniuses, and then you look at how ineffective their backup quarterbacks is, it takes a little, if they were an A+ genius, I'm giving them an A-. They barely getting up to a B, because some of these backup quarterbacks is like, dude, you didn't know? He's been practicing with you all this time, and you thought he could start and win you some games in this league? So I'll lastly state that my premise all along has been that the weighting of the payout is way too high on the starter and needs to be balanced up with the backup, because you guys have to see that you need a competent backup, because they're talking about stretching out the season again, so that's going to add to it in addition, to make sure that you get through a full season successfully on a team basis. All right, so next up, after points 4, we have points against. That's your defensive scoring rankings from 1 to 32. As you can see, in last place are your Dallas Cowboys. They've given up a total of 400 points. And in your first place, you have your Pittsburgh Steelers, who have only given up 237 points. So that's your spread between worst to first. Your Packers are in 17th place there. They've clinched the division, but their defense, still leaves a little something to be desired. Your Miami Dolphins are your surprise number 2, coming out ahead of the Rams and the Saints and the Ravens. So we've been on Miami for a while now. I think that's just an interesting scenario. And moving up into the top 10, those Washington Redskins. I mean, this is amazing. Washington has given up less points than the Chiefs, the Bears, and those Giants are no slouches, coming in at number 10 there, ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Colts, and the Cardinals, and the Buffalo Bills. So those
the highly touted Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Indianapolis Colts, and Buffalo Bills. Yes. The Giants defense is for real. I'm not calling them a great defense. I'm not saying they're superior even to these other teams. All I'm saying is they're playing really, really well right now. They've done a lot better with their drafting in the last couple of years. They found the defense to be a problem. They've worked on it, and it shows. And they're moving up.
Well, actually, they've been close to that 10 and 11 ranking through a large part of the season.
Right. Well, it's just
pretty consistent. If
Right.
anybody has moved up, it's probably Washington.
No, Washington has really moved up. But I just happen to remember, because the Giants are my team, that they were 11 last week and
Right.
now they're
Okay.
10. So,
Okay.
but when I say move up, I don't mean specifically moving up on our rankings, but moving up as far as the way they're playing and the fact that they're playing better because they've been playing together for the entire season. So as they've gone through the season, they've become a better unit, a better
Okay.
defensive unit overall. And
Okay.
and I can appreciate that. But you know, they still got their hands full with their offense, and they got work to do in the offseason, but enough of that, you know.
Well, defense is aided by the next stat that we want to take a quick look at, and that is turnover differential. There's Todd, our favorite, TOD, turnover differential. And in first place with plus 17 is your Pittsburgh Steelers. And second place, your Miami Dolphins. And so you see there's a correlation there between turnover differential and defense.
Yeah, the list almost kind of looks the same. Like the teams that turn the ball over are going to be your better defenses, because when you turn the ball over, you get the other offense off the field.
Yeah. Well, let's make sure that we say it in completion. The teams that take the ball more than they give it up, because that's really
Exactly.
what the differential is, and having to understand that everybody gives up the ball a little bit here or there. Right now, they're looking kind of out the side of their eye at the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm hearing some discussion about Pat Mahomes getting a little lax, a little carried away with himself there. Their
Aberration.
ability to come back, and just do you in like that. But some of those turnovers could come to bite them as you get closer to the playoffs.
I would say that game is an aberration until I see him have another game like that. And there's two schools of thought on their performance. One is they're getting lax and they're getting bored because they're winning the way that they're winning, and they seem to be able to do whatever they want to win games. And the other school of thought is that they're showing some chinks in their armor, and teams are starting to pick them out. And pretty soon there's going to be a blueprint to beat the Chiefs. I'm kind of leaning toward the. I mean, I don't think they're bored. I hate to use that word, but I feel like they feel that they can turn it on when they want to. What they need to be careful of is going into a game with that mindset. Like, in the back of your mind, you can, but you don't want to go into a game with that mindset. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand it's confidence without being arrogant about it,
Yeah. Right. Right.
and
Right.
where you go into sloppiness. And so that's the question. I mean, let's face it, Pat Mahomes is awesome. We all think he's awesome, and super mature for his age. So you expect that they'll come out of that. But let's see. I mean, let's face it, turnover differential, they are eighth. They are not first. The Pittsburgh Steelers are still first. Now their problem is offense. The Miami Dolphins, again, we're just always surprised that they've made these moves. Their coach Flores has to be commended. And then the Rams, again, a solid team. They're just a solid team, balanced on both sides, and that's pretty much it for them. So, we shall see. Now, the Saints, I'm a little surprised that they're as high as they are in the turnover differential, because their quarterback, his name's escaping me. What's his name?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. I want to call him Ty for some reason. Taysom Hill has been somewhat of a turnover machine. He's done some good things, but then he does have a propensity to turn the ball over. So I don't know if that has pushed them up or down, but I just want to keep an eye on that. They have clinched the spot in the playoffs. So that, at least based on getting into the playoffs, they don't have to try to rush Drew Brees back. From what I'm hearing, he's not exactly feeling like a spring chicken anymore. He's really still somewhat struggling. Even if they bring him back, he's not going to be 100%. So there's a real question as far as whether they're going to do that or not. Turnover differential. Anything else on that?
No, I'm good with that. Let's move on.
All right. Next up are the numbers that we pay the most attention to. And again, net points, differential, win margin, all of those are synonymous. And these are numbers that go from positive to negative. On your left-hand side, for the most part, are all your positive numbers. And as I always say, at any one time and during a season, half the team is in the negative. You can see the teams that are very negative. Those are the teams that'll be in that lottery for that number one draft. No, there's no lottery. They'll be vying for the number one draft pick. This isn't basketball, right? Kansas City Chiefs, first place. Pittsburgh Steelers, second place. That's flipped from a couple weeks ago. Saints still hanging on to third place, so we got to give Taysom his due on that. Those are all the three-digit net point leaders. You drop down to two digits with your Ravens, Packers, Dolphins, and Rams, Buccaneers, Colts, and Seahawks. So that's your top 10 there. And you see that range from 69, from plus 69 points to plus 122. So maybe the Chiefs have a legitimate reason to feel that way, whether it's healthy or not. Let's face it, they've been winning by the largest margins across the board.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, this is the problem. It's funny, and you and I have both coached on different levels, and I'm coaching right now in flag football, so I'm dealing with athletes that are the same age as a lot of these NFL athletes, guys in their early 20s up into their mid 30s. And there comes challenges with that because these guys have been around football. They've played in school, they've played little league, they played high school, they've played college, and now they're playing for recreation, but they still consider themselves football players and knowing the game. So when you have a good team that's full of talent and you're winning games, you would think it's all good. But in fact, it can actually be a little problem for you when guys' heads get a little big or guys start to come into games without the proper preparation because they feel like we're just better than everybody else and we're going to win. And you can say, well, that wouldn't happen to the Chiefs. These guys are professionals. They're making a lot of money. They're regular 20-year-old dudes. Okay, so that danger remains. And that's part of the coach's job to make sure that those kind of things don't creep into their heads too much, where it starts to affect the game plan and how they perform on Sunday.
One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, well, first of all, good point in terms of, you having that current experience with the younger guys, and just being able to relate to that. It is what it is. If you're 20 years old, you're 20 years old. Can't expect them necessarily to think like a 43-year-old, or anything like that. So that's a good point. We'll keep an eye on that with the Chiefs. The other thing I wanted to just kind of keep an eye on, again, are some of the teams that have that big differential between their defense and their offense. Because I think that's going to add some intrigue when it comes to the matchups as we get into the last couple games and specifically into the playoffs. So when I look at offenses, for example, let's see if we can back this up a little bit. And you look at your offense, Green Bay Packers, right?
You bring them up every week. You realize that, right?
Well, as you know, they've actually shrunk the differential a little bit.
Exactly, and that's the point I was about to make. You've been bringing them up, and there was a time when there was a gigantic difference between their offense and their defense, or between their points for and their points against. And they've consistently been getting better and better, closing the gap, that is.
So here they're 17th defensively, and offensively they're first.
Right.
Okay, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're within their top 16 on both. Seattle Seahawks. So you see that they're third offensively. The Seattle Seahawks are
18th
18th defensively. Now they've actually shrunk that differential also.
Yes, they have.
Their defense has moved somewhat in the right direction.
Correct.
One of the surprises here, however, is the Tennessee Titans. Now, I'm at turnover differential. Let's go back to points for. Where's your Titans at? They're number 4. All right, offensively, and they're 21st defensively. That's kind of a surprise. When I think Titans, I think defense, and they're missing out a little bit there. So I'm kind of looking at the teams that are like in the top 10, top 6, 15 or so offensively, and then not so on the defensive side. Let's go back here. Vikings are 14th offensively. Vikings are 24th defensively. So they're in the top half scoring, but they're in the bottom half in terms of their defense. The Cleveland Browns, another team, and I guess after that last game, they gave up a ton of points. But you've got your Cleveland Browns at 13 offensively, coming in at 27th now on the defensive side of the ball. Lastly, you have a few teams who are in the lower half offensively, but in the top half defensively. Let's see if I can get it right here. So I'm looking at Washington, the Bears, and the Patriots, and the Giants offensively. And then when you go defensively, top half, Patriots are 7th, Washington's 6th. The Giants, we already said, were what? What the Giants at here? 10th. So those are teams, again, when you're looking for balance, they're a little out of balance. They've either got really good offenses in the top half or really bad defenses, or defenses that need a lot of improvement because they're in the lower half of the league in terms of their points. And then you got the flip side where you got teams that are in the lower half offensively, but the top half defensively. So I just wanted to point that out. Anything on that?
Let me ask you something real quick, and you got to give me a fast answer off the top of your head. What would you rather have? Top-ranked offense, lower-ranked defense, or top-ranked defense, lower-ranked offense?
Top-ranked defense.
Would you?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to challenge you, and we don't have to do it now, to go back and look at some of those teams that you mentioned that had the high offense, like the Packers, and the lower-ranked defense, and teams that you mentioned that had the higher-ranked defense and lower-ranked offense, and see if you don't change your thinking a little bit when it comes to specific teams.
When it comes to specific teams.
Yes.
All right. I mean, always give them thought, but philosophically,
I understand what you're saying.
I am that guy. Defense wins championships.
I expected you to say that.
Okay. You know me.
Yes, I do.
Homie. All right. That wraps up the Sterling Net Point Power rankings. Next portion, Ben and Barry on football, will be looking at the Bias Plus reports. Stick with us. All right, Ben, you ready to do the Bias Plus report?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Bias Plus report. This is where we look at a matchup and compare the net point totals of the two teams. The team with the greater net points is favored. We say that they have the net point bias. The plus in the net point bias plus is turnover differential. If you watch the previous segment, we talked about the turnover differential for the rankings for week 14. And so you can actually see where everybody stands on that. We are going into week 15, and Thursday night, we have the matchup between the LA Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders, with the bias plus score of 20 favoring the Las Vegas Raiders. Here's your loss versus your loss, Benny. We're
I
back
was going
at
to
it.
say that. At last, we have loss versus loss. All right. So let's see. The Raiders have the bias, huh? Okay. Well, let's talk about the Raiders first. Last week, they played the Indianapolis Colts. They lost the game 44-27. And it's crazy because the Raiders are kind of all over the place offensively. You watch them play the Chiefs. Derek Carr looks great. They're throwing the ball all over the place. Jacobs is running the ball well. They seem to be able to find the end zone pretty consistently, and really slug it out with a team like the Chiefs. And then they come back and they play somebody else, a lesser team, so to speak. Okay. And they seem to have all kinds of problems putting real good offense together. The defense is mediocre at best, bottom line, week after week. So again, teams like that are usually front runners. If they can get up on you early offensively, then their defense plays well. But besides that, Derek Carr was 31 of 45 last week, 316 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions. Right now, Josh Jacobs is banged up. Devontae Booker is supposed to be his backup. He's backed up for him about 3 times now. Once he had a good game, about mid-season. Last 2 times, he's done basically nothing. So their offense is hurting right now. The Chargers, on the other hand, played Atlanta last week. They beat Atlanta 20-17. It wasn't as big a game as Justin Herbert has had in the past. He's had some struggles, and I only say there's struggles because he's been so hot and so dominant for a rookie quarterback over the course of the year that some of these games seem like down games to him. He was 36 of 44, so they're still throwing the ball quite a bit. It's only 243 yards, but he did find the end zone twice. He threw 1 interception. Keenan Allen, one of the top receivers in the league, is really cooking right now. He had 11 targets. He caught 9 of them, only 52 yards, but he did get a touchdown. And the biggest difference for the Chargers this year is the return of Austin Eckler. He carried the ball 15 times for 79 yards, and he caught 9 out of 9 targets for 67 yards.
Wow.
And we need to actually go back and look at running backs who catch the ball out of the backfield and start comparing these guys as to separate running backs from running backs, because you got your Derrick Henrys, and then you got your McKissicks and your Austin Ecklers. These guys are a different breed, and they give defenses a heck of a lot of trouble. All that being said, I'm taking the Chargers this week. I think Justin Herbert is back on his grind. I think Austin Eckler is going to be a handful for the Raiders to stop. So I'm taking the Chargers.
What I see interesting on the internal comparisons is that the Raiders are 30th defensive scoring defense. Chargers are 22nd in terms of their scoring offense, but the Chargers are 26th defensively and the Raiders are 11th. So that's the biggest difference, is that the Raiders are a better scoring team, or have been a better scoring team. We were talking about my Madden exploits and trying out other teams. I did play with the Chargers. I was very interested to see how they had modeled Herbert. And yes, the arm is live. Even on the game,
yes,
the arm is live, and he's
glad to hear that.
pretty accurate. Defense is soft. Let's face it. The defense ain't there yet, so they've got some work to do. You're going with the Chargers and going against the bias. Starting out early. Look at you.
Go. Here we
Starting out
go.
early, you was crying and snotting because you was only 50% last week.
That's okay. And the
And
week
you,
before that, I went against the bias quite a bit, and I was like 67%. So I don't
ah,
care.
all right. So you're averaging out. You're averaging out. All right. Let's see who's next there. What? Let me see what you're going to do with this one right here. Bills at Broncos. Bias plus score 148 favors the Bills.
Yeah, this was pretty easy. Let me just say, the Broncos played the Carolina Panthers last week. In fact, they went to Carolina. They beat them 32-27. I was very surprised. Drew Lock is not bad. He's a pretty good quarterback. And if there's any Denver Bronco fans out there, you got to like what you see from the guy. Obviously, your team has a lot of other problems, but you can kind of hang your hat on the fact that quarterback may not be one of them. There were some questions about whether they would look for another quarterback in the draft or not. He's obviously not wanting that to happen, and he's trying to play his best ball. He did pretty good, 21-27, 280 yards. He threw 4 touchdown passes. Drew Lock threw 4 touchdown passes. Now, yeah, it was against the Panthers, but Drew Lock threw 4 touchdown passes. That's a good thing. Not to mention that the defense played fairly well and got 4 sacks. Now, you won't hear anything else out of me about the Broncos for this game. Take the Bills. The Buffalo Bills are really, really, really starting to assert their dominance, okay? They had a big win against Pittsburgh last week. It was 26-15. They scored when they needed to. They stopped the Steelers when they needed to. Josh Allen was 24-43. Doesn't sound great, but, and it was only 238 yards too, by the way, but he did throw 2 touchdown passes. He was intercepted once. The bottom line is, when you got a guy like Stefon Diggs, you're going to be all right. He threw the ball to Stefon Diggs 14 times. He caught 10 of them. Talk about a connection. 130 yards and a touchdown. Oh, by the way, Stefon Diggs is the first wide receiver to 100 receptions so far this season. Okay. Mike Thomas isn't going to like that, but, you know, he's been injured. And their defense got a sack, 2 interceptions, and pick 6, 51-yard return. So take the Bills. They're looking strong. They're looking dominant. I've been loving them since the beginning of the season, and I'm really loving them right now.
You kind of pooed when I was talking about how good the quarterback was against my Niners. What did you say? Oh, he's supposed to do that. He was supposed to do that.
Yeah, because he's far superior to them.
Let me tell you
That
something.
defense can't stand up to him.
Let me tell you something. He got all types of extra kudos after that game. And now, you know, he's
because that was your team. I expect him to do that.
No, not because it was I'm talking about kudos across from the media. It had nothing to do with my team. It was just people that looked at that performance. So, long story short, yes, you know, he's really seemed to be coming into his own. I'm sure having Stefon Diggs there is a help and a half, no doubt about it. So and Broncos, you know, they're just not quite there. So all right.
All those late season kudos are coming from doubters. I am not a doubter.
Listen to you. Okay. All right. I forgot to mention, Ben, Bills Broncos is the first of a Saturday doubleheader.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We have to remind people there are games on Saturday. Listen, when we were younger, didn't we always wonder, like, what would it be like if we could watch NFL football almost every day of the week? We got Thursday, we got Saturday, we got Sunday, we got Monday, and if somebody gets a COVID attack, we might get a Tuesday again.
Might get a Tuesday, no doubt about it. Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Your Bills and your Broncos are the first game of Saturday. The second game, you just finished talking about those Panthers. They have to go in to Green Bay and deal with the Packers, who have a bias plus score of 111 favoring the Packers. There you go. 2 peas in a pod. Packers, Panthers. Who you got?
Well, let me just say this, and I got stats for Teddy Bridgewater and all that, but I'm not even going to go through with them. He didn't throw any touchdown passes. He did run one touchdown in, and he had 31 yards rushing. Most of that was because he was under attack by the Broncos defense. Mike Davis is the saving grace for this team. He's played so well, the running back, Mike Davis, that I almost don't miss Christian McCaffrey, except for the fact that he was the #1 draft pick in a couple of my fantasy drafts. And just for that alone, I've been sick. But I've had Mike Davis, and I've had him in some other leagues. And just to watch him play has been a blessing because the guy is really, really good. He had 11 carries for 51 yards. He scored 2 touchdowns, caught 5 or 6 passes for another 42 yards. Very versatile running back, a great backup for them to have for McCaffrey, obviously. I think this guy is going to make himself a nice contract when it comes time because I'm not going to say he's completely filled McCaffrey's shoes, but he's come very, very close to it. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. Number 1, take the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers destroyed Detroit last week, 31-24, 26 of 33, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he ran for 1. He threw touchdown passes to Devontae Adams. He threw to his tight end, Robert Tonyan, and he threw another one to Valdez-Scantling, okay? He's spreading the ball around. It's funny. He loves Valdez-Scantling. I don't know why. Maybe they got some kind of thing going on because Scantling has dropped some passes on him, and he's really like put his arm around him and kind of coaxed him along. I guess he sees some potential in him that I was getting sour on the guy myself, but he's really got it cooking right now. Aaron Jones didn't even have to, have a tough day last week. He ran the ball 15 times for 69 yards. The Packers are pretty much cooking on all cylinders on offense right now, and the defense is getting steadily better. They still have challenges against the run, but I like them. They look great. Take the Packers. This should be an easy game for them.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the Packers defense, they're ranked 17th going up against the 19th ranked Panthers offense, but you've got your 20th ranked Panthers defense up against the #1 ranked offense. So it makes sense, Packers in that situation. Okie dokie. Who else is up next here beside the Panthers, the Packers? How about the Buccaneers visiting the Atlanta Falcons? Now, the Atlanta Falcons I find intriguing. This is one of the potential intriguing games for me. Buccaneers are favored with a bias plus score of 72. But the questions surrounding the Buccaneers are there, and the Falcons seem to be trying to make a comeback. So I just, I kind of liked that, that matchup right there. I think it might be interesting, but favors the Bucs. Who you got?
Okay, so I don't know if some information that I got tonight before we went on has anything to do with the intrigue in this game, but let me just tell you. First of all, Tom Brady, they did win their game against the Minnesota Vikings last week. The score was 26-14. Brady was not at his best. He was sailing passes over people's heads. He seemed to be rushed quite a bit. I think the Vikings pass rush was getting to him a little bit, and they don't really have a really great pass rush. What's going on here seems to be, and this is with a couple other teams too, is you got a team with an offensive line that run blocks pretty well or really well, but for some reason they're challenged in pass rushing. We're to the point where they're not even playing teams that have really good pass rushes and are still having problems. So, like I said, Brady seemed really rushed. He didn't look good in the first half at all. He ended up being 15 of 23, which is not much at all. for a quarterback like him. For a mere 196 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but he did not look good. Ronald Jones, on the other hand, rushed the ball 18 times for 80 yards, and he scored a touchdown. He looked good. Leonard Fournette seems to be in the doghouse, but besides that, Ronald Jones was outplaying him anyway at the running back position. I don't even want to talk about their. They got so many wide receivers. It's confusing. Like, it can be anybody's night when it comes to the wide receivers. But the problem is Brady doesn't seem to be at his best. But here comes the intrigue. Chris Godwin missed at least 2 games with a fractured finger that they had to insert a pin in. Now Ronald Jones has a fractured pinky, which they inserted a pin in. They were questioning whether or not he may still be able to play because Godwin's a receiver, but Ronald Jones is a running back. There's a difference. He tested positive for COVID today.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious. And I know because Desiree has him on her fantasy team, and she was having a fit. Because her other running back is Gaskins from Miami, who's already on the COVID list.
Oh, God.
That was her 2 starting running backs, yo. She's going bananas. But anyway, so the Buccaneers have their issues. Now, the Falcons played the Chargers last week. The Chargers went in there. Well, actually, the Falcons went out there. I thought that was going to be a better game. The Chargers beat them 20-17, which sounds close, but I thought Justin Herbert played well, and Matt Ryan did not. In fact, he was 21-32, 224 yards. That's not Matt Ryan numbers. He only threw 1 touchdown pass, and he threw 3 interceptions. 2 of them were on back-to-back fourth-quarter drives when they were moving down the field to get in the field goal range to kick a field goal to tie and or win the game. And he threw picks on those 2 drives. Not good.
Matty Ice, come on.
Yeah, not good at all. So I'm really conflicted on this one because I feel like the Falcons can bounce back from a poor performance. I don't know what's going on with the Buccaneers defense. In fact, I think in the power rankings, they've been dropping. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what the heck is going on, but I'm going to take the Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the bias on this one because I'm really conflicted about this one. I do not trust Tampa Bay. I don't, but I'm going to pick them.
That's an interesting thing here. I'm looking at opponents' points per game last 3 weeks, and when you rank them up on the last 3 weeks, Tampa Bay is pretty low on the list. They really, oh man, they're like about midway down. So they're about 15th or 16th. So they haven't really been dialing it up. When I'm looking for Atlanta, they are actually 5th in terms of average net points over the last 3 games. So those are teams that have heated up a little bit, but in terms of their defense, and that's what we're really talking about here, that their defense has really played well. Not sure what offense. I didn't really look that up. All right. Next up, we have, let's see, who do we have here? Let's go back. All right, Buccaneers, Falcons. You're taking the Buccaneers, right?
That is correct.
49ers going into Dallas, my beloved. Yeah, baby. Bias plus score of 94 favors, 94, Ben, favors the 49ers. We can't, when I send you the numbers, you'll notice some of them are in red. When the numbers are in red, the net point numbers were in red, the bias plus numbers, the turnover differential numbers were in red, and the ultimate bias plus was in red, meaning they're all negative numbers for both teams. My Niners are not as negative as the Cowboys. The strange thing is, I believe Andy Dalton is a much better quarterback than Nick Mullins. But my defense is much better than the Cowboys. So, I can see this, but it's a little scary to me. It's just a little scary to see it. Who do you have in this situation?
Well, you're right. It is a little scary, and I don't blame you for being scared considering that's your team. So let me see if I can scare you some more. Number one, your 49ers played host to the Washington football team, and the Washington football team went out there to San Francisco and beat them 23-15. Now, I'm going to read something to you that you're not going to want to hear, but it's facts. Nick Mullins, in the 5 games he started between week 8 and week 13, he eclipsed 300 yards only once. He has thrown interceptions in all but one of those games. He has 7 interceptions in all and lost 4 of those 5 games. 7 interceptions total in 5 games. Lost 4 of them. Not good, bro. Not good. He threw for 1 touchdown last week, 260 yards. He threw an interception again last week, and it was a pick 6. Unbelievable. Oh, I'm sorry. He was sacked 4 times, and he fumbled and lost a fumble. Now, I was going to say your only saving grace is you got Ayuk back because Deebo Samuel's hurt, and you got Mostert back, and you got Wilson. So you look like you got your 1-2 punch back in your running backs, which is what Shanahan likes. And you got, most of your receivers. It's a shame Deebo went down again, and I think it was his hamstring again, which is not good. Unfortunately, Mostert had to go in for another MRI on his ankle. So, he was already missed time. He already missed time with a high ankle sprain. Evidently, it's bothering him. They said he got the MRI on Monday, but as of the time that we've been on here, I have not seen if they've gotten back the results or not. I expect them to have those results tomorrow, so I don't even know if he's going to be able to play. Luckily for you guys, Jeff Wilson looks 100% healthy, and he's running the ball well. It looks like he's been the goal line back and the short yardage back anyway. They still have Juszczyk, and you guys should be okay in that respect. But Mullins is your weak link. And I mean, I'm talking about a really weak link, like about to break weak link. Now, the Dallas Cowboys had an awesome game last week. Granted, they played the Cincinnati Bengals. Granted, their defense forced 3 fumbles on Cincinnati's first 3 possessions. They returned 1 for a touchdown, and they sacked whatever that guy's name is. I miss Joe Burrow. I feel I shouldn't be talking about Cincinnati like this. I feel bad for them. But the bottom line is the Cowboys did what they had to do. They looked impressive doing it. Andy Dalton didn't stink it up. He was 16-23, 185 yards, threw 2 touchdowns. Zeke doesn't look himself, so they really, really need Andy Dalton to do his thing and make sure that he can get completions to everybody. Amari, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, use them all. Dalton Schultz, use them all because Zeke is not himself. The offensive line really isn't run blocking really well. There's not a lot of holes for Zeke. But all that being said, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to defeat your San Francisco 49ers. So, yeah, book it. Going against the bias, take the Cowboys.
Okay. I mean, you gone with the Niners a number of times, and it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. Like I said, it's a little scary situation. Let's see who we have up next. Lions at Titans. We're going to talk about something that's hilarious to me in the commentary segment, but I'll throw it out there now because did you see last week the young man for the Lions who took that kickoff and he was about gone, and he got tackled by the kicker.
Oh no, I missed that.
But
Oh, that's embarrassing when the kicker gets you.
well, on our Ben and Barry on Football Facebook page, the article is that the Lions fined him for getting tackled by the kicker.
Stop. Don't come on, man. You making that
Yes, it's in the it's on the go to Ben and Barry on Football on Facebook, and you will find that article. Bias plus score 144 favors the Titans. Who you got?
wait. Are we going to talk about this later?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. Oh God, that's awful. All right, let me say this. The Tennessee Titans.
You want to say that again?
Yeah, I know that didn't come out right. I need my mask. I'm all over. It's a good thing my laptop can't catch COVID, man.
Oh my goodness.
The Tennessee Titans are on a mission. They're on a mission. And as long as they have Derrick Henry and he stays healthy, they're going to be a huge problem. But what makes them a bigger problem is Ryan Tannehill starting to get his mojo back. And that's going to be the difference coming down the stretch. So anybody who has to face the Titans in the playoffs, and granted, they haven't clinched the spot yet, but I expect them to. Anybody who faces them in the playoffs is going to have their hands full. Now, they waxed the floor with the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. I didn't expect that game to be much of anything, and it wasn't. Derrick Henry, 26 carries, 215 yards, his second 200-plus yard game. He also ran for 2 touchdowns. And then Ryan Tannehill just filled in the blanks, 19 to 24, 212 yards, and another 2 touchdowns. And I think I mentioned this early in the season, maybe even a couple of times. When you look at Tannehill's numbers, you don't always see big yardage totals, but he always finds the end zone. Henry gets him to the red zone, and if they don't punch it in on the ground, Tannehill will find a receiver and score those touchdowns. So that's an easy one. Take the Titans. Lions don't have a chance.
Yeah, and one of the scarier parts, stats on this is that the Titans are have an 11 turnover differential bias in their favor. They were +9, while the Lions are -2.
Wow.
So that turnover differential is pretty big.
Yeah.
And so I understand there going with the Titans makes sense. Texans at Colts. 152 bias plus score favors the Colts in this situation. They're actually talking about whether they want to extend Phillip Rivers' contract because he's playing pretty well. My second favorite whipping boy, getting it in. I think he's cut down on his turnovers a little bit, still here and there. He's not exactly a Fitz tragic figure, but he's not far off. But long story short, they're playing well as a team. So 152 favorite against the Texans, who've struggled a little bit lately, even under the new coach.
Yeah, they're struggling more than a little bit. They lost to the Bears last week, 36-7.
Mitchell
Yeah, we're going to talk about Mitchell in a little bit, but I feel really bad for Deshaun. I feel like Deshaun has the weight of the entire team on his shoulders. Their defense is pathetic. Their running game is almost non-existent. The receiving core is doing the best that they can, but these guys are nowhere near DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller type talent, and they're struggling. And then the next guy up was supposed to be Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks is going the way of the way his career has been so far, in and out of being injured. So it's really difficult for me to say anything good about the Texans, except for the fact that I hope they get their stuff together in the offseason, get themselves a new head coach, somebody that's going to be able to help the GM get some talent in there for Deshaun, because I believe his latest contract signed him up for till like 2025 or something. So he's going he's going to need some help, and he's going to need some help quick if
Yeah.
he's going to do anything while he's on that team. Otherwise, he won't be staying there. Now, when we talk about Phillip Rivers, the great thing about Phillip Rivers is you know what you get when you get him. When you talk about cutting down on his turnovers, okay, the guy does not move well at all. He is the quintessential pocket passer, on top of the fact that he's got that funky delivery, okay?
I thought you were going to say the quintessential statue.
Well, pocket passer's a nicer way of saying it, but yeah, the guy's basically a statue. He cannot run. And when I say he can't run, it's not because he never does run. I've seen him attempt to run. He cannot run.
It's not a pretty sight. Eh?
He's just not a pretty sight at all, okay? But he's enjoying his time with the Colts. He really fits in with this team. Frank Reich, who a lot of Eagle fans wish they still had for Carson Wentz, is getting along with him just fine. And they are producing. Phillip Rivers last week against the Raiders was 19 of 28, 244 yards. Didn't have to throw for a lot of yards. Threw 2 touchdown passes. Everybody's healthy on that offense now. Everybody. And T.Y. Hilton, whose name was hardly mentioned until midseason, is now getting his flow back. Okay. Jonathan Taylor started off pretty well. Wisconsin running back, by the way. Started off pretty well, faltered a little bit, had his little COVID bout, had his little injury bout. Now he's back on top again. He's the number 1 running back on that team. Last week, big game, 20 carries, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Take the Colts. The Texans have nothing for this. They have nothing for this offense. And I didn't even mention their defense. The Colts defense is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they just look like a better team overall. Texans ranked 23rd and 25th offensively and defensively, and the Colts are 5th and 12th offensively and defensively. So definitely favored there. All right, next up, Patriots at Dolphins. Bias plus score of 96 favors the Dolphins. My, how things have changed. I can't remember going back too much in the previous seasons and seeing bias plus scores, Patriots and Dolphins favoring the Dolphins like this. But hey, this is 2020, man. Anything can happen. You know, anything can happen. The Dolphins have the 2nd ranked defense point-wise, but the Patriots have the 7th ranked defense point-wise. So, you know, this could be a fun game. And Tua is still getting tested. You know, he's still, you know, showing people what he's got, and we're still looking to see just how far he can take this team. So, what do you have on this?
Well, when we talk about these two teams defensively, let's try to remember now, the Dolphins' trajectory is this way, and the Patriots' trajectory is this way. I guess you can't even call that a trajectory, can you?
Yeah.
Trajectory means up, doesn't it?
Not necessarily path.
Okay. Well, then I was right then. Okay, so that's even better. But but we got a lot of problems with the Patriots offense. Cam Newton does not look good, bro. 9 of 16, a measly 119 yards. He didn't throw any touchdown passes. He did throw an interception. He had trouble running the ball. He had trouble throwing the ball. It doesn't look effortless, that flick of the wrist that he used to have. It looks like he's struggling a little bit. I don't know if the shoulder injury is coming back. I don't know what's going on. He did leave the game early, supposedly with an abdominal injury. I'm not even sure if he practiced today, but if he didn't or he was limited, it was probably because of the abdominal injury. but he doesn't look good throwing the ball. The real problem is when he doesn't look good running the ball either. He got stood up on the goal line twice, okay? 2 times. Not good. Not Cam Newton-ish, all right? I'm starting to worry about them, and I'm wondering, even though Belichick said when questioned about Cam is my quarterback, I'm starting to wonder if this guy's even going to make it through the entire season. Defenses are really whacking him around. He's not moving as well in the pocket as he used to when he takes off running. And this is my opinion. He looks tentative. Okay. He's just not the same guy. I don't know if it's because he's not 100% healthy or it's just years are catching up with him. I don't know what it is, but he hasn't looked good. Now, they're playing the Dolphins. The bias likes the Dolphins. I like the Dolphins also. I'm still not 100% sold on Tua, but I tell you what, he kind of did what Derek Carr did. People are questioning him, and he doesn't look that great, and this and that and the other, and then he plays the Kansas City Chiefs, and he has his best game. You know what I'm saying? They were down early. Trying to remember, they were down like 30-10. They scored first. The Dolphins scored first. I think they had a touchdown and a field goal. I think they were up 10-0. By the end of the third quarter, they're down 30-10. They come roaring back, and the game ends 33-27. Nah, that means a little something. Now, granted, it wasn't Mahomes' best game. He did throw 3 interceptions in that game. But I could also turn around and say the Dolphins intercepted him 3 times. Okay? They had 3 sacks. Yeah, 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. So, again, Brian Flores, great job. To me, he should be in the running for Coach of the Year. I really love their defense, and they play. They run a lot of blitzes. They play a lot of man-to-man. They're very daring on defense, and I think that's a great thing. And it matches up well with the type of offense that they have right now. They're hurting at running back right now because Gaskin is out. They have another guy, and his name escapes me right now. But oh man, I hate when I forget guys' names because he's going to be big on fantasy this week. But anyway, yeah, take the Dolphins.
You know, we just talked about the Colts, and both the Dolphins and the Colts had some beautiful interceptions in their games.
Oh, the one-hand interceptions, and yeah, that was the week for that. Yes, definitely.
Nice interceptions, man. And I had to look back because I know I text you on the one, Kenny Moore with the Colts.
Yeah, that was a nice one. That was
beautiful, man. That was, people were comparing that catch to OBJ.
Yeah.
You know? And I wanted to mention one other thing real quick, kind of going back again to that Buccaneers game that we talked about. And I know we're going to talk about the Browns, but they're talking now with the Browns about whether or not OBJ and him being in there has a negative impact, you know, on the quarterback, Mayfield, because he's been doing so well since OBJ has been out. And they're also kind of saying that now about Antonio Brown as to whether, you know, it's drawing too much of the quarterback's attention and he's not moving the ball around to everybody because he's trying to get the ball to Antonio Brown. So I'm only mentioning it because I've heard it, and so I'm putting it out there so people can keep an eye out to see if those things are actually a fact. Well, you won't know about OBJ. He's done for the season. Am I correct? Do you think he'll be back at all?
Nah, he's done. And I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think it's fair to say that. I think Baker Mayfield is doing the best he can with what he's got, and he is actually stepping his game up, and it has nothing to do with OBJ being there or not being there. As far as Tampa Bay is concerned, I think AB being with the Buccaneers is affecting Brady.
Now that's weird that you would think that about Brady and not about Baker Mayfield.
I don't think that Baker Mayfield had any particular. I don't think OBJ had any particular sway over Baker Mayfield or over their coach. I think that's all in the media's heads. I really do. They're the only ones that brought it up, talked about it. There may have been one game where it seemed to me like Baker was trying to force the ball to OBJ. And in fact, I believe they won that game and OBJ had a good game. But other than that, I don't think so. On the other hand, AB was living in Brady's house. Brady's on his knees begging them to get him. He tried to get him in New England. He got him, and then he did something stupid, and they got rid of him. There's a connection between Tom Brady and AB.
All right.
I think Tom Brady's trying to sort of kind of low-key prove a point with Antonio Brown. But I think it's foolish for him to do that when you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and my goodness, Scotty Miller. See that bomb Scotty Miller caught?
Yeah.
Why didn't he throw that to AB? That was a bizarre.
Well, that's a good question. All right, let's move on. Bears and my number one whipping boy, Kirk Cousins. Bias plus score. Then you got Mitchell Trubisky and Kirk Cousins.
Gotta love it. Two of your favorites.
Two of my favorites. And the bias plus score 14, not a big one, but it favors the Trubisky and the Bears.
This has to be your intriguing game of the week. It has to be. It just has to be.
It is on the list. Yes, it is on the list. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, in this particular division, and this is a divisional game, the Packers have already wrapped up the division. They won the division.
Right.
But the playoff implications are still in there for both of these teams. I do believe, even though neither one of these teams looks really, really good.
But they got a shot at the wild card.
Huh?
They got a shot at a wild card spot because there's two wild cards now instead of one now.
Well, both of these teams are negative net point teams. And so the Bears are just simply less negative than the Kirk Cousins-led Vikings, strange as it may seem, as much success as it seems the Vikings have had. But long story short, it's the Bears. Who you got?
Well, the Bears have the bias. I find that interesting. I'm going to assume that it has something to do with their points against ranking and probably their turnover differential that got them over. But besides that,
well, you might be right because the Bears have the 9th ranked defense and the Vikings have the 24th ranked defense.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I kind of felt that way because offensively there wasn't a real big difference except for the fact that the Vikings have Dalvin Cook. So,
Yeah, Vikings are better offensively than the Bears, but this is where you get that Trubisky factor. I mean, what did he do last week?
Well, let's see. Mitchell Trubisky. First of all, they played the Houston Texans. Okay. So the competition level was not that great, especially defensively. And then, on top of the fact that Brandon Cooks was hurt and Deshaun hardly has anybody to throw to, and his line can't block for him that well. I mean, it's really a bad thing going on down there in Houston. But Trubisky won the game. He was 24 of 33. Pretty good. 267 yards. He threw 3 touchdown passes. Really good. Here's a big difference on this offense. And Trubisky's been up and down. And Allen Robinson has been the most consistent player on that team from game 1 to now, regardless of who is quarterback in the team. Allen Robinson is a wide receiver 1. This guy doesn't get mentioned a lot because he's on the Bears and they're not known for offense. Allen Robinson is the truth. He caught 9 of 13 targets. So when you get 13 targets in a game, that means they're really leaning on you. He caught 9 of them, 123 yards. He scored a touchdown. But the biggest difference on their offense is David Montgomery. If you watch David Montgomery, if you go back and look at games of David Montgomery last year and you look at him now, it's a huge, huge difference. Number one, last year, he looked slow. And I mean, running back slow, like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying he was slow, but I'm saying for a running back, you're looking at him, you're going, dude, you're just not quick enough. He lacked speed. He lacked quickness. It looked like he lacked vision. This year, he's got vision. He's hitting the hole. He gets to the second level. He's got moves. And he's got acceleration. He's a completely different running back. David Montgomery is having his best year without a doubt. Carried the ball 11 times, 113 yards, really good. 1 touchdown, caught the ball 3 times for 42 yards. He didn't do much of that last year. In fact, last year, I don't even think he could catch. I don't know what this dude did in the offseason, but he definitely improved his game. I got to talk about the Vikings because right now, at this very second, I don't know who I'm picking in this game. Let me look at my notes. So Kirk Cousins takes the Vikings down to Tampa Bay, Florida. Okay, great weather. Let's live it up a little bit, guys. We can win this game. They lose 26-14. Cousins goes 24-37 for 225 yards and 1 touchdown. The Tampa Bay defense, and I've talked about them a lot, they're not a full defense. They're weak on the back end. They're strong on the front end. But they took the front end strength and they gave Kirk Cousins fits. They had him running all over the doggone place. On top of the fact that the Minnesota Vikings are one of those teams that I talked about before that seems to be built for run blocking, but their pass blocking is not good at all. Not good at all. So you take a line like that, you try to run the ball with Dalvin Cook as much as you can, but if you can't get a lead or you fall behind and then you come up against a team that has a great front seven and is going to pressure you, you're going to have problems. And that is the Vikings' Achilles heel. And that's exactly what happened to them. That's why they only put up 14 points. And that's why they lost the doggone game. Because Dalvin Cook did his thing. He got 22 carries for 102 yards and he ran for a touchdown. But in a game like that, he probably need to get like 26, 27 carries and probably run for about 130 or 140 in order for them to win. But he couldn't do it because Tampa Bay got ahead. The Vikings tried to come back. Kirk Cousins couldn't throw the ball because they were climbing all over his back. Okay? Now, that being said, we could see that same thing happen again when the Bears come to town. Take the Bears. Take Mitchell Trubisky.
And Mitchell Trubisky. All right. So now at some point he keeps this up. When we say that he Trubisky'd it up, it'll be a positive thing. It's
No.
a good thing.
That will remain a negative thing. I'll just, when he does well, I'll just say Mitchell Trubisky did well.
It will.
He played well. He threw the ball well. He looked good. Yeah, but Trubisky ended up, that's got to stay.
All right, there you go. All right, well, next up we have this was going to be on my intriguing game list when Alex Smith was quarterbacking the Washington team. But if they bring back their second-year player, is he second year? The quarterback?
Yeah.
This is his second year, right? It was his third year.
Second year in high school. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Dwayne Haskins' his second year.
Once when Dwayne Haskins back in quarterback in the DC or the Washington football team, I'm like, nah, not so intriguing anymore. Bias plus score of 60 favors the Seahawks.
Well, fear not. Supposedly Alex Smith's injury is very minor. It's a calf injury. They're holding him out of practice to make sure that he's 100% because they want to play him. And I don't blame them because Dwayne Haskins stinks. He always stunk. And I told everybody that when he got drafted, when we were going over our whatever year, when did he get drafted? Last year, when we were doing our combine thing and
Year
our
before last, wasn't it? His draft.
no, this is second year. He was a rookie last year.
Okay, I won't argue. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I told everybody then, I said, this is a guy who played for a great college team, Ohio State, and had one really, really good season. I don't trust him. And sure enough, this guy does not have the goods. I'm not saying he can't, resurrect his career, maybe if he ends up going somewhere else, but it won't be here. He's not good at all. So yeah, I expect Alex Smith to be ready to go. So again, fear not, you will have Alex. You'll also have J.D. McKissick because Gibson is still down. He ran the ball last week 11 times for 68 yards. Oh, that's right. They played San Francisco last week and they beat them. How did they do it? What's it say here? They did it with their kicker and their defense. Chase Young recovered a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. They had an interception, 76-yard pick six. Kicker kicked 3 field goals. No wonder they could finish the game with Dwayne Haskins. They punished y'all. Not good, bro.
Chase looked great last week. He was disruptive big time. He elevated his own stature last week in that game against my beloved Niners.
I saw some guys on Facebook having an argument about Aaron Donald possibly being the greatest D tackle of all time. I said, it's early, but keep an eye on Chase Young.
Is he considered a D tackle? I thought he was more of a D end.
I think he plays both. I think he's in and out, but Aaron Donald's in and out too. I see the times I watched him, he was mostly on the inside. I don't think they put him out on the end that much, but they do move him around.
Okay.
But, that's kind of what they do nowadays. Now, all that being said, forget about it. Take the Seahawks. Russell's back, 21-27. Not too shabby. Only 206 yards, but 4 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. It was a 50-50 ball to DK. Probably a ball he shouldn't have thrown. Maybe he could have put a little bit more air under it. It was another one of those great interceptions. So, I'm going to let him slide on that one. Chris Carson, 12 carries, 76 yards, touchdown. Carlos Hyde, 15 carries, 66 yards. DK, 6 catches, 61 yards and a touchdown. Seahawks are back, baby. They're cooking again. Take the Seahawks.
Take the Seahawks. I ain't mad at you. All right. Next up, we have. I do believe this. Nope, not. It is not the largest bias plus score.
It's not? It's freaking 223. What the hell?
It's not the largest, but it's a big one. 223 favors the Ravens against the Jaguars. I do believe Gardner Minshew. I believe Minshew's back. Who do you have?
Jeez. Yeah, Minshew has been announced as the starter for this game. I think they played Glennon last week. He was horrible. There's nothing really good to say about the Jaguars except for James Robinson, who's a really good back and also fits the mold of the backs I was talking about, who catch the ball really well out of the backfield. Even in a 31-10 thrashing by the Tennessee Titans, he ran the ball 12 times for 67 yards and a touchdown. And he had a 44-yard touchdown call back on a penalty, I think. So other than that, there's nothing good to say about Jacksonville. Now, obviously, I'm taking the Ravens, okay? There's a lot of controversy. I don't want to call it controversy, but there's been a lot of talk about the Ravens, especially from that last game with the Browns. First of all, it was a fantastic game to watch. I felt bad for my daughter because she was down in fantasy by a lot. And Marquise Brown almost brought her back with the one catch that he made on top of, she had Lamar and she had Marquise. The guy dropped 3 passes. She probably would have won the game if he didn't drop those 3 passes. She got close and she needed the game to go to overtime so that they could rack up more stacks and she would have won the game. And the Ravens won it in regulation. Unbelievable. Here's the crazy thing. Cleveland's defense is not terrible. I don't have my rankings up in front of me. I took them down. He was only 11 to 17 for 163 yards. He did throw 1 touchdown pass, but he ran the ball 9 times for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unbelievable. The only other thing I want to say about that is, and you can chime in on this if you want to, he had to go to the locker room. They brought in McSorley. McSorley gets hurt. He comes back out. He leads them to the win. Supposedly he had cramps and had to get an IV. But when they showed him going down the tunnel to the locker room, did you see how fast he was moving?
Yeah.
Did he look like a guy that had cramps to you?
No, he didn't.
Guess where he went?
Where?
To the freaking bathroom, bro.
Oh, is that what he had? Oh, they said he had cramps. He had to go to the bathroom.
That's what I believe. He wasn't moving like when you have cramps, you walk, you're like, oh man, oh.
Yeah. Cramps will take you down.
He had a little light jog. He was trying to get there. And when he got right to the door, somebody was coming out of the door and he went boop, boop.
Yeah.
Move on. You see that?
Yeah, I saw.
You don't do that when you got
him. Guy was startled. He kind of startled the guy that he was, in such a hurry, and the guy kind of ran to get out of his way.
Yes. You don't move like that when you got cramps. You move like that when you got to take a dump.
Oh man, that's crazy. He's smashing during the game.
And when he came back out, he was a new man, wasn't he?
He was lighter and faster. Oh my goodness. Only here at Dun & Barry on Football would you hear that kind of but they also said that they said when they said he went to give a fluids for he was cramping up, someone said he does that like every game, like it wasn't a big difference.
I tell you what, I don't think, these young boys don't eat well. You know that, right? Like I've been around these guys. They got millions. I've been around guys this age is what I mean. Athletes that are the age of these NFL players. These guys don't eat right. They don't eat right at all, especially the young ones. The older guys, they got chefs and nutritionists and all that. That's because they learned from earlier experience. These guys be eating McDonald's and all kind of crazy stuff. When he had COVID, and I was discussing this with Teresa because she was like, all these guys, you keep telling me about these guys on your fantasy teams with COVID and COVID and COVID. I was like, yeah, but hardly any of them are ever sick. Lamar Jackson actually was sick. He said he slept basically for 10 days before he started feeling better. He didn't eat well during those 10 days. I believe that he hadn't eaten well. He stuffed down something a couple of days before or the day of that game, because that was a night game, okay? Didn't sit well with him, and he had to go get rid of it, and he probably did still get an IV, okay? And if he gets IVs all the time, it's because he doesn't drink water like he's supposed. He's a young boy. It's regular young boy stuff. We look at these guys, we're like, oh, professional football, look at the skills, he's so great. What is he, 24? He's a bubblehead.
We went through that with Cuddy. He was a guy that just young and just athletic, and just could run and jump and could eat whatever he wanted to, and it didn't seem like it made a difference. So I can understand that point there. So all right, you are going with the Ravens.
That is correct.
Going with the Ravens. All right. Next up is the largest bias plus score of the weekend. The Biggie bias plus score of 290 favors the LA Rams over the New York Jets.
Okay, this is an
That
easy.
makes sense.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
That makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing good I can say about the Jets right now, and I don't want to waste time saying anything bad about them. Just say pretty much everything about them is bad. People kind of been getting on Jared Goff. They're starting to get on my nerves. Some of these media people really get on my nerves with the stuff that they say sometimes. Like there's not enough to talk about. They talk about Jared Goff like, oh, I don't know, he's not. Doesn't look like he did the Super Bowl year, and he's not quite right. The Rams are a running team, folks. Get it through your heads. Have you not been watching? Okay. They've been jockeying Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers around like the guy with the 3-card money thing, okay? But they drafted Cam Akers for a reason, and Cam Akers has finally gotten an opportunity to show that he deserves to be the number one back on that team. Okay?
Looking like Cam, isn't it?
Exactly. He ran the ball 29 times. Okay. None of this, you get this many carries and you get this many carries. They finally realized Cam Akers is the man. 29 carries, 171 yards. A dominant performance against a New England Patriots defense that was supposedly pretty good against the run. Okay. Totally dominant. The Los Angeles Rams are going to be a handful in the playoffs if they make the playoffs. Again, we're talking about that NFC West. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I don't know who's going to be the odd man out, but it's sort of kind of looking like it might be the Niners. He's either going to be the Niners or the Cardinals, and somebody's going to win the division, and somebody else is going to be in real good position to get one of those wild cards, and it might be the Rams. So because they're balanced, they're running the ball more than they're throwing it. I think Goff is more than capable of doing his thing, just like I talked about Tannehill and their defense. Against New England, 6 sacks, 1 interception, returned one of the interceptions for a 69-yard touchdown return. So take the Rams. This is an easy game for them. Cam Akers should go bananas in this one. And, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Josh Reynolds, Everett. Everybody's going to get numbers in this game.
Okay. That is your fantasy. Everybody's going to get numbers, so that's a good fantasy thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Potential intriguing game right here to me, Benny. Bias plus score 119 favors the Cardinals. Eagles now have Hurts coming back for his second game. He's not up against another quarterback who's actually a struggling quarterback. So, the Saints were they had Taysom Hill, so they're still playing a little out of their element, and they caught those guys. I was a little surprised that the defense for the Saints was not able to completely contain the Eagles with Hurts. But remember when we were talking about them, I was saying that, and on one of the NFL TV channels, the guy said that the one word that he used to describe Hurts for the Eagles was poise.
Okay.
I told you I had a different word after watching that game.
Yes.
My word is competent.
So when you use the word competent, can I assume that you're linking Hurts' success with Wentz's non-success?
Wentz looked incompetent.
Okay.
Wentz is making decisions and doing things that just, he was a turnover machine, and you don't expect. You're looking for more savvy. And of the two, Hurts looked to be the more savvy player, the guy who gets rid of the ball, gets the ball out, runs at a very opportune time. But again, that was one game, and you don't know if he caught the Saints by surprise. He's not going to catch the Cardinals by surprise. And what might catch the Cardinals by surprise is the quarterback for the Cardinals running on them. So you got two quarterbacks who are pretty mobile, and we don't know how healthy the Cardinals quarterback is. That was one question that we had. But 119 favors the Cardinals. Who do you have?
Okay. Well, let me tell you what I've got on this. Now, first of all, they both won their games last week. Cardinals played my Giants. They beat them 26-7. Daniel Jones wasn't right. It was ugly. I didn't like watching that game at all. Kyler Murray was 24-35 for 244 yards, and he threw a touchdown. That's pretty good. I was getting a little worried about Kyler Murray. I still think his shoulder wasn't 100%, but I think he's getting better. And I'm pretty sure he's getting better because I talked about his lack of running the ball. Well, last week he ran the ball 13 times. Now, 13 times.
Did he? 13 times last week.
Ran the ball 13 times. He only got 47 yards, but he took his shots. You know how he likes to do. He likes to get on the edge and then run out of bounds, get on the edge, stick the ball out, get the first down, run out of bounds. So that's his thing. That's what he does. His big runs is usually when he gets on the wing or gets on the edge and then cuts back and goes up the middle of your doggone defense and nobody can touch him. He hasn't been doing a lot of that, okay? But he can still get out. So I think maybe your worries about him or my worries about him may be over, but we will see. DeAndre Hopkins had a stellar game, which I expected him to have, even though it was going against the Giants defense that's been playing pretty well. He had 11 targets. He caught 9 balls for 136 yards, and their defense played extremely well. They sacked Daniel Jones 8 times. He fumbled 3 times. They recovered all 3 of them. Ugh, God, it was ugly. Ugh. Now, the Eagles won too, and they beat New Orleans. And I will say, at the point where they were and the point where the Saints were, this game seemed like a no-brainer in favor of the Saints. Everybody on television picked them. Everybody on the radio picked them. Everybody I know picked them, except for my man, oh my God, Tyrone Johnson, who is the guy that shares time on the Mike Missinelli show. He picked the Saints, and he picked them outright.
The Saints?
He picked the Eagles to beat the Saints. I'm sorry, I'm losing my mind. He picked the Eagles to beat the Saints, and he picked them outright. The guy's like, oh, you mean they'll beat the spread? He's like, no, the Eagles are going to win the game. And he explained what he thought was going to happen. And I'm thinking to myself while I'm listening to him, like, there's no way that's going to happen, except if the Saints defense comes in a little lax and is looking ahead to the game they have the following week, and they don't have a lot of film on this guy, and we've seen that happen before too.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, they might have been looking ahead. We'll talk about that. That's the next game up. Okay.
Right.
Okie dokie. Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. Lack of film on the guy. Okay. They dumbed down the playbook for him. Okay. They ran the ball. Okay. All the things that they wouldn't do for Wentz for whatever reason. Some people say it's sabotage. I don't know.
There's one guy on the radio that says he just thinks the coach don't like Wentz. He's like, he don't like him.
And it might not even be about like. It might be about, this is our guy of the future. You're not playing well. So at this point, I'm going to see what my future looks like, and I'm not even going to try to help you. It's like they're not trying to help Wentz be better. And they're
when you said that about dumbing down the offense, I remember hearing someone say that the Eagles are going to try to help Jalen Hurts. They're going to try to run the ball more. And I'm like, now they want to run the ball more?
Right.
They should have been running the ball more.
Right. Why wouldn't you do that before? That's supposed to be a part of your game plan. They played several teams with pretty poor run defenses and didn't exploit them, Green Bay being one of them.
Well,
They
I told you about the one series that I watched where they handed the ball off to Corey Clement. He goes 7 yards. It's 2nd and 3, and the
and they throw the
next
ball.
3 plays they go into an empty backfield, and I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah. I've seen it happen, and it's inexplicable.
It's
But
very
even with all of that, once the ball is snapped, your savvy quarterback gets rid of the ball like he's supposed to, or he runs like he's supposed to. He takes advantage of that situation, and Wentz has not looked good and has not looked savvy in those situations.
okay. And Hurts, in fact, really did look very poised and competent, just like you said. Um, Again, he didn't have to throw a lot of passes. Well, he threw 30 passes, which is a good number for a guy getting his first start against a team that supposedly had a really good defense. So they game planned and schemed for him extremely well in this game. Again, something that seemed to be missing when Wentz was quarterbacking, but I don't want to get into that controversy. My thing is, he only completed 17 out of 30 passes. It was only 167 yards. However, he ran the ball 18 times for 106 yards.
18 times?
He ran the ball 18 times for 106 yards, and Miles Sanders had 14 carries for 115. That's the ball game right there. And Miles Sanders scored twice. That's your ball game right there. They caught the Saints sleeping. Taysom wasn't sharp, and they ground it out. They ran him into the ground.
Wow. That's what happened.
They played basic football, and they won the game. So now, here's my thing. That ain't gonna fly next week. I'm taking the Cardinals. I think their defense, although it may not be as good as the Saints defense on paper, they will be ready. And I think Kyler Murray is going to give the Eagles fits. I really do. Not to mention they don't have anybody that can come anywhere near able to cover DeAndre Hopkins. So I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Ah, yes, the nuke factor. Can't forget the nuke factor there. No doubt about it. Okay. All right. You said that the Saints was looking
Yes.
past the Eagles to the next game, and I had to go take a look at it, and here it is. Chiefs at Saints, bias plus score of only 21. Now, we just finished talking about a bias plus score of 290. Ladies and germs, just to give you perspective of what a large one. So if you look at net points, just if this has a little turnover differential built in, but mainly it's net points. And this is game week 15. So we have 14 games in. So if you divide 21 by 14, it's 1 point such and such. So we're talking about less than 2 points a game differential between these two teams right now. The Chiefs, as you said, could it be bored because it's just been a little too easy. The Saints are trying to figure out, what they're going to do. We don't know if Taysom is going to play or if Drew Brees is going to come back. And from what I'm hearing about Drew Brees, he's still in a lot of pain. He ain't exactly out the woods yet. He's still a little ginger or something of that nature. So bias plus score 21 favors the Chiefs. And this is on my, well, let me put it this way. This was potentially a intriguing game of the week, unless if Drew Brees plays, but not so much if Taysom plays, because I don't believe that Taysom is going to have much success against this Chiefs defense.
I don't either. So I'm going right to the current Yahoo Sports, rotoworld.com. Saints designated quarterback Drew Brees to return from injured reserve today. Advice: this was expected with talk. Brees could return this week. It's more likely that Taysom Hill gets another start, but the Saints haven't ruled out Brees playing against the Chiefs. So there you have it. Now, if he's good enough that they took him off of IR, then that means they want him to play and they want him to be prepared to play. Didn't mention anything about him being in pain, but that doesn't mean it isn't so. Drew Brees has taken shots before. And when I say shots, I mean medical shots for pain. As a lot of guys have. I'm not trying to, say anything disparaging about Drew Brees. My thing is, a game like this, they're going to feel like they need Drew Brees and they're going to play him at all costs. They're going to try to get him some limited practices and get him ready for this game. And if it's a game time decision where he has to come out a couple hours before the game is supposed to start and run around and warm up and throw the ball around before they decide if they're going to play him or not, if that's what it comes to, that's what it's going to come to. But I know they don't want to go into this game with Taysom Hill. They just don't.
Just going with what you just said, if Brees is not available, what's the potential for Jameis Winston?
I would say probably none.
They really don't trust Jameis. Is that
well, first of all, Taysom's been playing all this time. Even in the games that they won, Jameis didn't take near a snap. So now you're going into the Chiefs game, you're going to go with a guy cold, or you're going to go with the guy you've been leaning on and try to hope that, each week he plays a little better, and he, somehow keeps you in the game. I don't see Jameis getting any time here. And in fact, I'm not completely sold on Taysom. I don't know how they feel about him. But there's a good chance that Jameis won't be there next year. There's a good chance that they'll just let him move on, or they'll trade him, and they'll just decide Taysom is our guy. He's our backup. Brees is only going to play another year at the most, 2 tops, and I don't even see that. I know he's probably going to come back next year because he really wants to win another Super Bowl, and he doesn't want to go out, with the injury thing and having missed so many games that maybe they don't, get an opportunity. But I think they're pretty sold on Taysom Hill as his backup. Jameis is probably going to be out of there.
All right.
All that being said, take the Chiefs.
Going with the Chiefs. That is the last of the 4:00 slate of games on Sunday. The New York Jets-Rams game is 4, and the Philly-Arizona game are both 4:05 games. This is a 4:25 games. And rounding out Sunday would be the Sunday night matchup. And the Sunday night matchup features your beloved New York Football Giants hosting those Cleveland Browns, who just took that disappointing loss to the Ravens. Bias plus score of 39 favors the Browns here. And I mean, let's face it, the Browns, this is, again, 2 teams, both in the negative net points, but the Browns have the 13th ranked offense. The Giants have the 10th ranked defense. Browns are 27th ranked on defense, and the Giants have the 31st ranking on offense. So they actually look kind of close, but are you dealing with Colt McCoy or Daniel Jones coming into this game?
I have no idea. I mean, Daniel Jones made it through the game, but he didn't look good. So my thing is, when they get him back to the facility and they check him out and they have him practice, if he doesn't look any worse, then he'll probably start again, and they'll expect him to be at least a week better. I don't mean play better. I mean physically be better. I don't know how the heck he's going to play. But he didn't look good. He didn't look 100%. He didn't move well. And he had that hamstring way up high in the back of his hamstring, the top part of his hamstring, and attached to his glute. That's a bad spot to get a hamstring pull. bad spot. I was surprised that he came back as soon as he did. I was happy because I thought he was going to be ready, but obviously he wasn't. They should have played Colt McCoy. That being said, I really can't pick my Giants to win this game because Baker Mayfield is really hitting his stride. He looked extremely good. Kareem Hunt looked extremely good running the ball and catching the ball. And Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb. 2 touchdowns on the ground, 82 yards total on 17 carries. Hunt had a touchdown on the ground and through the air. 6 carries, 6 catches, 77 yards. He only had 37 from scrimmage, but he had 77 yards on 6 catches. The Browns offense is cooking right now. They look extremely good. And Myles Garrett, he got his mojo back. Remember you were talking about one guy can make a difference? Myles Garrett's one of those one guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, take the Browns. I kind of hope that they don't start Daniel Jones because I don't want him getting hit by Myles Garrett.
All right. Going with the Browns. All right. That rounds up the Sunday slate of games. The Monday night matchup is Steelers at Bengals. That's another pretty big bias plus score of 227 favoring the Steelers.
I'm surprised this isn't the
What you
highest.
got? Huh?
I said, I'm surprised this isn't the highest one. But then as soon as I said I was surprised, I'm really not surprised because the Steelers done lost 2 games in a row, and they're looking a little shaky there all of a sudden. I tell you what I don't like about the Steelers. What's up with these receivers dropping all these passes? I never seen such a thing. It's like a freaking epidemic. The whole receiving corps got the yips.
Even guys who were looking like potential future superstars earlier in the season, But then again, we are at that change in temperature point, so maybe guys aren't making that change. This is running back weather right here. Defensive line, running backs. This is their time to shine. And the Steelers' run game doesn't look that strong either.
I tell you what, I think Mike Tomlin needs to make a phone call to Hines Ward and have Hines Ward come down there and talk to some of these young boys, okay? Between James Washington, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Deontay Johnson, that's four bona fide young pass receivers. The Steelers really need to start looking into drafting themselves a quarterback of the future because they don't have one. These guys are going to be around way longer than Big Ben, way longer. You don't want to lose any of these cats. I'm telling you, these guys have all the talent in the world, but got concentration issues. They do that whole classic ball's almost in my hands. I take my eyes away because I'm ready to run and I'm looking to where I'm going to run and they're dropping the ball. Their concentration levels are low. They're not staying focused and they know they're supposed to. They're professionals. They do this every day. They got jugs, guns, the whole 9 yards. There's no excuse for dropping the ball the way these guys have. Juju's not so bad and he's only like 24 and he's the vet out of the group, okay? They got to fix that. I mean, they'll beat the Bengals. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, they gotta stop that. That's crazy. I'm very disappointed at the way that those guys are playing because they have all the potential. The Steelers could be good for the next who knows how many years with a receiving core like that. You said that they're not running the ball that well. You're right. I don't think James Conner is 100% either. I think I'm trying to remember. Was he injured or did he have COVID? Because he's got the.
If I remember correctly, I'm going with injured.
Yeah, I'm going to go with injured too. But they were worried about him getting COVID because he had cancer before.
Oh, right. He's a high risk.
Right, he's a high risk. But yeah, I was watching him run, He doesn't look good. He looked sluggish. I don't want to say slow. He looked very sluggish. Um, so we'll have to see what's going on with that because I haven't heard anything. But yeah, he didn't look good. But they won't have any trouble with the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't expect any trouble with the Bengals either. But that's why they play the game. So you said a week or so ago. And that pretty much wraps up the Bias Plus report. We like to finish up the Bias Plus report by giving kudos to the previous week's Bias Plus Buster of the week for NFL Week 14. Look who it is.
Isn't this the second time for them?
Isn't this the second time?
For some reason, I think the Eagles were bias busters one time before. But even if they weren't, kudos to the Philadelphia Eagles. Kudos to the coaching staff for working well with a rookie quarterback in his first start. I got to give them credit. They beat a real team. No excuses.
You know, when I'm doing the Bias Buster of the week, it's really funny. Sometimes you have games where the bias is very small. And in order to become the Bias Plus Buster, you have to win by a large margin. That happened, I believe, last week or the week. I know what it was. The Patriots putting up 45 points. The Patriots were only 0.3. The Chargers rather were 0.3 Bias Plus score, and we were doing averages at that point. And then they got beat by 45. The Eagles were had an unfavorable bias of 180. So they had the large bias. They only had to win by a little bit. They won by 3. That was a little bit enough to get them the largest total Bias Plus score differential. And so congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles being the Week 14, NFL Week 14 Bias Plus Busters of the Week. All right, you got anything on that before we move on?
Nope, congrats.
Congrats to the Eagles. All right. All right, that wraps up the Bias Plus reports and the Bias Plus Buster of the Week. We're going to get ready to jump into commentary, and we're going to move somewhat quickly here as we go through the commentary. We will discuss topics that you can find on our Facebook page at Ben and Barry on Football on Facebook. First up, a quick what do you think? Louis Riddick is reported being considered for the GM position with the Atlanta Falcons. We normally see him on all of the different TV shows as a commentator and also on some games. What do you think about Louis Riddick going in as GM?
That's interesting. I've heard his name bantied about in the past in reference to the GM position or front office position with my team, the Giants, and also with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think he wanted the Philadelphia Eagles job nor the Giants job. So he kind of played it off, and, you know, he's doing really well on television where he is. He's obviously extremely knowledgeable. I respect his commentary and the things that he says about teams and players. He's a pro, and he knows the game. He played it, and he's worked for organizations before.
Played with the Falcons, right?
Yeah, he played with the Raiders, and I think he played with the Browns. I'm fairly sure I'm right about that. But anyway, I'm not sure that I'm pretty sure that he would be happy to have a GM job. but I think he's in a position where he can be really picky about the job that he takes. And I don't know if he has a relationship with Raheem Morris or anybody with Arthur Blank or anything. I don't remember him playing for the Falcons. I could be wrong, but if there's a relationship there, then it's possible that if they offer him that job, he may take it. I just know that although it's something that he wants to do, he's smart enough to not jump at the first job that's offered to him. He wants to go in someplace where he knows he can be successful right off the bat. And I don't blame him because he doesn't have to do it. He's got a great job right now.
Interesting. Looking up Louis Riddick here. Came out of Pittsburgh. It looks as if he played with my Niners, the Falcons, the Browns, the Falcons again, the Raiders, and he played a little bit in one of the off leagues with the Sacramento Surge and the Orlando Rage. So
okay, so I was right about the Browns and the Raiders. Those I remembered.
Right. Now, he had executive positions with the Eagles and the Redskins.
Yes.
As they were called the Redskins back then, the Washington football team. We don't even say Redskins. So excuse me.
Yeah, but you keep saying it.
Calling it that. I know. We don't say the R word. And we stopped saying it before everybody else did. So that's even, but in any event, Louis Riddick wanted to bring that up as a topic for discussion. Next up, wanted to just give a quick shout out, Benny. The Spring League played its championship game, and the Generals, they pretty much spanked, I forget the name of the other team off the top of my head, but they pretty much won big time, and that game was yesterday. Now, let me see. I'm going to see if I click this link, if it will carry over and you'll actually still be able to see it. No. This is something I wanted to mention. That is the championship trophy. Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
It was so small. It was like
yeah, well, they got a low budget, man.
I'm like, it was sitting on a table, and it was like a folding table, and it was like, I'm like, yeah, I've seen you guys in your flag leagues with bigger trophies,
bigger and better,
way better. I mean, it's like completely unimpressive for a trophy.
Yeah,
but they were happy to get it. So what can I tell you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, hey, it's good for them.
Spring League football still happening. Finished up for the year. So there you go. Let's take another quick look. All right, I told you we were going to talk about this. I actually have video here. Let me see if I can share this video with you. I want to turn the sound off here because we don't really need to see it, and move it up a little bit. Okay, so here's your kickoff, Benny. And here's your Detroit Lions returning the kick. All right, he's out. He is out. Wait a minute. The kicker got him. But it's kind of unfair because the kicker had a really good angle, and the guy was right on top of him.
First of all, there's a code for kick returners. You don't let the kicker get you down, especially if he's the last guy to beat. That makes it even worse. I've seen kickers get the angle and come in and trash dudes on the sideline because they're trying to get around their blockers, or they're trying to maneuver, or they just had to make a spin move and pull out of somebody's grasp. And just before they get ready to take off again, the kicker comes and he swipes his legs out, or he throws his body at him. Those things are acceptable. But when there's one man to beat and it's the kicker and he gets you down, that's embarrassing, and you're going to get talked about. But what this here is, this goes a little bit beyond that. Is that right? Is that
Yes, your kick returner was fined by the Detroit Lions for letting the kicker get him.
all right? Now tell me this. Was this like some kind of like a little special teams bet? Like if you ever let the kicker get you, we're gonna fine you. And you put money in the jar, and then at the end of the year, we're gonna go.
A curse word or something.
Yeah, like the cuss jar or something.
I don't know. I was too busy laughing
That
to go
can't be
that deep
serious.
into it, but that's how it came up on the Bleacher Report and a number of the other reports that came out, and it
That's a
just
serious thing. If their front office or even their coach decided that that was because they were down by 10 at that time. Okay. So it's not like he cost them the game or nothing. The guy got tackled by the kicker. Yo, kickers wear shoulder pads too. They got on helmets. You know what I mean? If you kick the ball and run the other way, you're not going to be on that team very long. There comes a time when the kickers got to do something or attempt to do something. And most of the time they look bad. So when they do something good, that's a good thing. You're going to find the dude. That has to be a joke. That has to be.
like I don't know
That's for
how
real.
serious of
You
a
trade
fine
me
it
right
was,
now.
but it was funny because even in the Bleacher Report, they had the laughing face with the laughing till the tears was running down beside the headline. So I think
Yeah,
that
I don't. The more I think about it, the more I think it's not funny because that's me. You can trade me now. Trade me now. It's not like I wasn't trying to beat him.
and like I said, it didn't look like the kicker. And let me ask you a
It
question.
kind of came
Wasn't
out of
it,
nowhere.
wasn't it the Colts kicker who actually got some notoriety because he actually like smashed a runner, came over on the sideline
I
and
think it was
really
Blankenship. Yes, I think it was him.
he like has his own podcast radio show now.
He got some size on him, though.
Okay.
He ain't no little guy.
Okay. Now this is with that blanket shit. It's this is a guy who's retired now.
Oh, yeah.
Funny.
McAfee.
Yeah,
Oh,
there
he's
you
got his own podcast. That dude's, he's
He's
hilarious.
hilarious, right? Exactly.
He is hilarious. Yes. That dude's real funny. Pat McAfee.
Pat
And
McAfee.
yes, and he lived for making hits. Yes, he did. He stuck his nose in a lot of times. He got his bell rung a couple times, but he wanted to prove to everybody that he wasn't afraid. Yeah, absolutely.
Pat McAfee. See that I know I needed you to help me out with that. Okay.
That guy's too funny.
Well, this guy doesn't really crack jokes too much. Right now, they're seriously talking about adding that 17th regular season game. So the NFL owners met virtually, and they're looking at that 17th game. They're looking at maybe one less preseason game and all of the little manipulations that they would need to do in order to have the season extend out by another game. And I think from what they were saying, they're going to add another bye week. So it looks like a potential 19 weeks of football in 2021.
Wait. They want him to play an actual 17 games and everybody gets 2 byes.
They're talking about it's like an extra bye. They got to move some things around. But yeah, they're going to replace the preseason with a regular season game. That's what's being discussed.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't think it's all been voted in yet because again, it's got to go through the union.
Right.
But I do believe that the template was already in place for some extra games. So let's keep an eye out on this article again.
Yeah, that's something that they had talked about in the past. And I'm thinking to myself, the players union is not going to go for this. But now, because of COVID, no OTAs, no real preseason, no preseason games at all, and guys pretty much survived it. They might go for it now. They might say, you know what? we could do this. It's another game we get paid. Money is always a big issue. Okay. It's one less preseason game, which we all hate playing any doggone way. We didn't really miss them. I mean, we kind of missed them. I'm talking about players. We kind of missed them physically. You know, it took us a little longer to kind of get our rhythm going. And there were some things about some young players that we would have known if we had preseason games that it took us a little longer to learn. But other than that, a few soft tissue injuries here and there. I tell you what, they might put this through.
Could be.
I don't like the 2 bye week thing though. I don't.
Not too sure about that part.
I can do without that. That's crazy. Now you're messing with fantasy now. You going
no, not that.
Yeah, you're going too far. You're going too far.
All right. I only have one other thing, and then if you have anything, you know, you can run with it. But we're going to wrap it up. Now, Ben, you know, I am not the baseball guy. You are the baseball guy. But some baseball history was kind of made. The Negro Leagues are now part of the Major League Baseball, and the stats are going to be counted.
No way.
Records. Oh, I love it when I throw something new on you. Yes.
Oh man, you don't know how awesome this is. Oh my God. Wait. 3,400 players were part of these 7 leagues that existed from 1920 to 1948. That's going to take in Gibson, Satchel Paige. Oh, man. Okay. I'm going to tell you this right now. There's some people out there that are not going to take too kindly to this. Not at all. Not at all.
Too kindly to this change in the records and things of that nature?
Kindly to these guys' stats being in with the Major League Baseball stats. There's going to be some very revered players from the past whose numbers aren't going to look so great anymore once some of these guys' numbers get compared to them.
Okay.
There's some heroes out there that ain't going to look so heroic when they get put up against some of these guys, which was part of the reason why they wouldn't let them play in the first doggone place.
Well, that's how, you know, the funny thing about watching movies about that time and all, the bias, the racism, it's just a part of the movie. It's like accepted as a part of the movie. And then like you talk to people today, you know, in real life, and it's like they haven't acknowledged that level of racism was maybe only less than 50 years ago. You know what I mean? It really wasn't that long ago. So those people are still around, or their children, you know, are still around. That legacy is still around. We see it today in some of the reactions to the elections and things of that nature. So this, and overall, again, we say football is life, and this is about as much life as you can get there. That is a tremendous change, and we'll be looking forward to how those records are going to be impacted.
That's awesome, man. The crazy thing is, there's some stats that I know that have been speculated on, especially by old timers that were around during that time, but may not have been officially in the book, like when Deacon Jones was getting sacks before they kept sacks.
Right.
You know, there's some baseball stuff. I mean, there's stories about dudes hitting like 70 and 80 home runs in a season way before Babe Ruth hit 60, way before Barry Bonds got juiced up and hit 70 something. You know, these dudes was hitting 60 and 70 home runs off of fried chicken and beer, bro. These cats was rocking the ball. They wouldn't. That's why they wouldn't let them play them major league play. Those major league pitchers would play them in exhibition games and get rocked so bad. They're like, do not let these dudes know. No. No.
All right. Well, there you go. There you go. That's what you call an authentic reaction from a baseball fan on that particular article. And again, you can find that at Ben and Barry on football. I'll simply say, remember to subscribe and click the notification bell so you will be notified when we put out more football content. All right, Mr. Dickerson, any final comments? I don't want to say any last words because they're starting to execute people again here.
Yeah, we don't want to be a part of that. But, lest we forget, we got football tomorrow night. We have 2 games on Saturday, so put it on your calendar because I don't want you to forget and miss any games. It is very important. Also, if you're playing fantasy, this is a critical moment in fantasy. This could be your semifinals. You could be on the cusp of winning a fantasy championship. Make sure you get your lineup in tonight before you go to bed or sometime early tomorrow. Don't blow it by not getting your lineup in. On top of that, if you're in Philly, you got to deal with the snow. Good luck. I'm staying in the house myself. If you got to go out, be safe. Go Noles.